y'all, Natalie here for a cherry on top, and today we have another mixed media mix-up volume 2. Today we're using distress crayons, so let's jump right in. I have a gessoed page here in my art journal, and first technique we're going to try with the distress crayons is the stencil technique. So I'm just like smearing some of the distress crayon into the stencil. And you don't have to do it perfectly because you're gonna add water to disperse the color. So this is my mistake right here, is I added this green color right next to the pink color. So what happens is the colors kind of fade into one another and they kind of look muddy. I don't love this technique because of that, but this technique would have worked better if I had just kept the colors all in the same palette so that nothing muddied up. You'll see what I mean when I remove the stencil here. Still not my favorite way to apply these, but just stay in the same color family and you could be safe with this application technique. So now I'm just wetting my finger instead of the paintbrush and using it to smear through the stencil. And I do have a gessoed page here because of this water. See, there you go. Not the best way of application in my opinion. So now I have a stencil and I'm going to use a little bit of white gesso through the stencil. So that's what you see me doing here. Just applying the white gesso. And then I have to wait for that to dry. So you'll see me grab another stencil and I'm going to try texture paste as well. So just kind of using different stencils here for interest and so you can keep them separate of what technique I'm trying here. So this is texture paste, just spreading it through a stencil. And yeah, there we go. Now I will say all of these techniques you can also try with other types of things like gelatos, but distress crayons is what we're doing here today. So while we wait for those to dry, I'm gonna try watercolor. So I'm just smearing the colors on the page a little bit. And these work really great with the water. The colors are very soft and subtle, but the lines that I drew dilute with water so easily without leaving any hard line underneath. So I was really impressed with that. That's beautiful. You could really create something beautiful. And then there I have a baby wipe and I'm just kind of spreading the color, and then I decided to go in with my hand. And so you can also blend those really easily with your finger. Now I'm picking up the color through a stencil, and I love that technique. That's super cool. So I decided I'm going to try that again just so you can see. What you're doing is you're smearing the color really vibrantly, and then you're picking up a lot of it with a baby wipe through a stencil. And so the only part that stays is the part hidden by the stencil, kind of a masking technique. And I really love how this looks. You'll see me use this on a layout in the future for sure. This isn't the technique I use in today's layout after this tutorial though. So now we're dry over here. So now I'm smearing some of the distress crayons onto the gessoed stencil portion. And then I'm going to use a baby wipe, lots of baby wipes here, and I'm just gonna smooth it out. And that's a really fun technique. So it smooths really beautifully, blends into the other colors, and then you can see the gessoed portion, the dots in this case, come through very well. And so it just adds an interesting texture. I'm not sure that you could rub the color off of the gesso and leave it on the page, if you know what I mean, like a resist technique. That's not really going to work with this, but it does give some texture underneath with that gesso. So now I'm going to do the same thing with the texture paste, and in my opinion it doesn't work as well. So I try to use a brush here instead of my finger or the baby wipe, but that didn't work really well either. So I went back to the baby wipe technique, and that did spread the color evenly on top of the texture paste. I don't know, maybe it's just the red colors. I'm not super loving it. I prefer the gesso to the texture paste. So the next technique we're gonna try, we're using them as watercolors. So I just used the distress crayon onto my glass mat there. And like I said, they dilute with water beautifully. So they don't leave like lots of chunks or little grits. And so this would give you a very light, pale wash of color, and it's beautiful if that's what you're going for. So that's a good thing with these distress crayons, is that you can use them a bunch of different ways and get a lot of use out of them. So this is my favorite technique, and this is what we're going to use on my layout today. So we're kind of doing the same thing we did the first time, where we're just kind of smearing some color through a stencil. But this time, instead of a paintbrush or your finger, we're going to use a baby wipe. And I'm just smearing it through. I love this because you can pull the color up to kind of fade out. So just maybe in the middle of your stencil, use lots of concentrated color and then pull it out to fade with your baby wipe, and it's really beautiful. This is my favorite way. And so I'm using that baby wipe and really going at it, you know, pushing down really beautifully, really hard with my hand. And you'll see here in a second, when I pull away the stencil, you have a really beautiful impression of it. And it worked so nice. Better than spritzing. And so what I'm showing you is that it smears, but if you let it dry, you have to let it dry, it won't smear. And I'll show you, I did another example, and there you have it. This one's fully dry. I have dry fingers and I'm rubbing it and nothing is coming off. So that's my favorite technique of how to use distress crayons. So we're gonna go right into it here using the new Pink Fresh Studio Super Cool collection. And so I'm gonna use this photo of my little boy, and it's a so funny story. But anyway, we'll get to the story in a minute. So I want to use, what am I trying to figure out here? Oh, how I'm gonna layer it. And so I want that black and white paper to break up the photo. So I'm trying to figure out which side I want to use on the other side and save. Paper hoarding here, not like I didn't get 2 of these sheets, but anyway, I'm just gonna rip down a little bit, maybe like a third of the page, and I'm gonna use that down the side of my page. And then I'm going to gesso the white paper. Actually, I gesso on top of both of these pattern papers. So I use this heart black and white because I want to kind of put a pop of black in there to make everything pop from the stark white and bright colors here. So I'm cutting that down, and I'm just going to have a layer of that Pink Fresh Studio paper, and then this heart paper is just for my stash. So I rough up the edges because I have the ripped edge on the green paper, and that's how I'm going to layer them up. So we've roughed up the edges now. We are adhering them down. And then I'm going to gesso right on top so that I can use my distress crayons through the stencil here. So that's what I'm going for. That's what the look is going to be. So here's my gesso. And I did want to fade out some of the black and white and some of the green so that I could use the distress crayons on top. So these pink colors of the distress crayons that I have are the perfect colors for this so super cool collection from Pink Fresh Studio. And this is one of their newest ones. Love it. You know I love Pink Fresh Studio. So all I'm doing is that last technique we tried in the first portion of the video. So I am using 2 different colors. I'm going to do the dark colors on the outside and then add that middle color as the lighter color. And I'm just smearing it all over, nothing perfect. I'm definitely not even trying to get inside because the baby wipe will pick up the distress crayon that is on the stencil and like disperse it in the empty spaces. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm just like holding the stencil still and rubbing with my baby wipe. You could tape down your stencil if you wanted to be super duper careful, or if you weren't good at like holding the stencil down really tight, because that is what you need to do, is hold the stencil down really carefully to ensure that you get the image as you want it, not doubled up or faded or, you know, like double vision kind of thing. And so I'm going to lift the stencil here in a minute, and it looks great, but it's a little too perfect. It's a little too rectangular, right? You can see where the stencil begins and ends. So I'm just going to add a little bit of color at the bottom and the top to kind of make it look a little more organic and, you know, not like the rectangular stencil. So that's what I'm doing here. And then, important part, set it aside to dry. I can't tell you the exact drying time. I think I went off to take a shower after I did this and let it dry. So, you know, it's not long, maybe 15 minutes, probably less even, especially if you used a heat tool. So there we have it, fun mixed media background. So I decide I want some splatters though. So I use the technique of a paintbrush and some water, and boom, there my distress crayon. It's the exact same colors that I used through the stencil, but I use it as some splatters. So that's super fun and a way to get the exact necessary color to match your distress crayon through the stencil in a liquid form for splatters. So now I want to do some hidden journaling. So I'm going to cut up, this paper is called hashtag. I'm going to cut out some of these squares to use as journaling cards behind the photo. Oh, there I did a title on my Cricut off camera. It says llama drama because the title is going to be no llama drama. Basically, we went to a Christmas event and they had like a pen to feed the animals, and my brother and sister-in-law got my son some food, and the food came in a ice cream cone, and they handed it to him so he could take the ice cream cone to feed the animals, and he, I guess, didn't realize what it was, and he bent down and like took a giant bite out of it. You guys, we laughed until we cried. It was so funny, but he did not think it was funny. He laughs about it now, but he was so embarrassed, and bless his heart. Oh, we laughed until we cried though. He's not scarred for life, I promise. But I had to tell the story. It's so funny. So I think I'm going to put the title there, and then I'm like, wait, I can see more of the mixed media if I move the title down here. And I'm using another one of those cards that I cut out for journaling to kind of give me a backdrop for that title so you can see it really well. So I use the opposite side of the hashtag paper, which is those cute little icons, and that's going to be my background. So now you can see I'm drawing out the size of the journaling cards, and that way I foam all around that space so it only leaves a pocket large enough to slide the journaling cards down into. So that's what I'm doing here. So I'm going to pop that background paper, backing paper for the photo off of the page so it creates a little pocket for the journaling cards, because I really like the way this layout looks, and it's a lot of journaling, and so I didn't want to take away from the look of the layout, so I just hide it down in the pocket. Sometimes I do that. Sometimes I write directly on the page. It just depends. So I'm adhering down the photo, and there's my little journaling cards, and I do write on them, but I don't do it on camera. You'll see I do that later. So now I'm just going to start building my title and then embellishing. So the way that I wanted to position the title, it was somewhat on the other paper that had popped up, so I need to pop up that paper as well that's below the title. So I do that. I add some foam behind there and I pop it up, and then I add my llama drama, and then I add no because we don't want llama drama, but we had a little bit of llama drama. And then it was kind of blending into that background paper a little bit, so I just added a label from an old Pink Fresh Studio sticker sheet just to kind of let that title pop off the page really well. So now I'm just embellishing, and so I'm going through off the cardstock sticker sheet and the puffy sticker sheet from the So Cool collection, and I'm just going through and picking out things that kind of go along with the story and match my colors here. And then I want to add stickers on each side of the photo, some down below the title, and then to kind of make the paper flow, I will add some in the left-hand corner as well. So then you're kind of like a book. You're looking from left all the way down to the right diagonally, and it just draws your eye down to the title where I want it to end. So I will say that some of these puffy stickers, I don't know if I was just like super aggressive with them or anything, but they came off the plastic or the sticky backing. That happened a couple of times, and then I was sure to be careful with it. But it didn't really make that big of a difference. I just added some of my Nuvo glue. And I did that on some of the stickers anyway because I'm adhering them down to gesso, and we know that stickers don't love to stick to gesso. So anyway, just be careful pulling your puffy stickers off so that you don't pull off the actual sticker part. That's not fun. And then I decide that I like the black title, but I need some pop of black. So I pulled out these like enamel dots. Actually, these are from my stash. Anybody remember like making their own enamel dots? I did this a million years ago, but you like melt the perler beads, and so that's what these are. They're melted perler beads, but they're like this like not super matte but like not super shiny black, and I just love the pop that it gives. And so I go through and I add those around to kind of bring in the black title and the black heart paper, and then I decide that I need some splatters. So I am going to go through after I add everything and just add splatters. If you do this, be super careful. A lot of times people cover up their photo. I just tried to be super careful and just did a very small amount of splatter kind of around them in the mixed media area that you can see too. So and I added a green splatter and a black splatter. And then I think we're at the end. So I really hope that you guys enjoyed this mixed media mix up volume 2. I'm going to link down below to the Cherry on Top group. We are going to have another thread on the message board so you can show what you've practiced and what you did with your distress crayons or gelatos or other types of items like this. And I can't wait to see what you've done. You can also catch more details on the blog. I'll link up down below. Thanks for watching. Give me a like and a follow. Thanks, y'all. Bye.